So now we move on to al-Hasan li Dhatihi. This is the next in line after al-Ṣaḥīḥ li Dhatihi. What did we say? Those 5 conditions are really important. If you find any of those 5 conditions lacking, it will become some other kind of hadith. It will not be Ṣaḥīḥ li Dhatihi anymore. So automatically you know that Hasan li Dhatihi is missing something from one of those 5 conditions of Ṣaḥīḥ li Dhatihi. Every kind of hadith that you will see that is not Ṣaḥīḥ li Dhatihi is missing something of those 5 conditions. That's why those 5 conditions are really important. Then you just need to know which of the 5 conditions is it missing, how bad is that, and then you'll call it something else. All right, so let's take a look. What is Hasan li Dhatihi missing? If a narration has all of these conditions of Ṣaḥīḥ li Dhatihi, has all 5, however, one or more of its narrators in the chain of Hasan li Dhatihi has weakness in their accuracy, i.e. their memory is not as strong as the narrators of Ṣaḥīḥ li Dhatihi, then such a narration is termed al-Hasanu li Dhatihi. In simple words, Hasan li Dhatihi is the same exact as Ṣaḥīḥ li Dhatihi, just at least one narrator has a little bit weakness in the memory. Nothing else. Everything else is the same. You have a connected chain, the narrator is reliable, he's adil. His issue is a little bit weakness in the memory. Not a lot, a little bit. There's no shadh and there's no mu'allal. That is Hasan li Dhatihi. Someone, at least one, it could be more than one, but just one at least has a slight weakness in the memory. He's not on par with those excellent narrators. So this is what Hasan li Dhatihi is. And this is why we use Hasan narrations in fiqh as well. It's practically Sahih. He had a little bit issue with his memory. He's not like Imam Malik. So, he's acceptable. Right? So now let's take a look at this. Hasan li Dhatihi is very easy. A slight weakness in the memory, that's all. Example. Imam al-Tirmidhi said, Qutayba told us that Ja'far bin Sulaiman al-Duba'i told us from Abu Imran al-Jawni, from Abu Bakr bin Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, who said, I heard my father, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, say when he was facing the enemy, the Messenger of Allah said, indeed the gates of Jannah are under the shadows of swords. Imam al-Tirmidhi says this hadith is Hasan Gharib. Okay, so you can see this narration. Imam Tirmidhi is narrating this. Tirmidhi narrates from Qutayba. Qutayba narrates from Ja'far. Ja'far narrates from Abu Imran. Abu Imran from Abu Bakr. Him from the Sahabi Abu Musa. And Abu Musa was facing the enemy in jihad. And he said, while looking at the enemy, he said, the Messenger of Allah said, Jannah's under the shadow of sword. And then he started fighting. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Right? So this is the courage of the Sahaba. So this is the narration. Now Imam Tirmidhi, he says this hadith is Hasan Gharib. What does Hasan Gharib mean? Remember, Hasan is one narrator has a little bit weakness in memory, otherwise all the conditions of Sahih is there. What does Gharib mean? There's only one chain. So it's Hasan and Gharib. There's no contradiction there. It can be Hasan and Gharib at the same time. So now who has that slight weakness in memory? Everyone in this chain is of high level of strength, called fiqh, excellent memory and reliability, except for Ja'far. So who is that? That's the grand teacher of Imam Tirmidhi. Imam Tirmidhi took from Qutayba, he took from Ja'far. Now this Ja'far, his memory is slightly weaker than a Sahih narrator. Because of his memory, everyone else's, their hadith would just be Sahih. If he wasn't in the chain and Abu Imran took from Qutayba, or I'm sorry, Qutayba took from Abu Imran, it would have been Sahih. But because of Ja'far, his memory was a slightly weaker, now it becomes Hasan. So that's what Hasan is, not on par with Sahih li Dhatihi, a little bit less. And again, what does li Dhatihi mean? Does anyone remember? Li Dhatihi? What does li Dhatihi mean? In itself. So this is Hasan in itself. We don't have to look at outside reports to learn this. You just look at the narration itself and you can say, okay, Ja'far's memory is not that great. It's Hasan li Dhatihi. All right. Everyone following? Let's move on, inshallah. Yes? They would learn their biographies. So in that person's lifetime, and then what they would do is they would compare, they would see all of his narrations. I got all of your stuff. And then they would get all of someone else's narrations as the same narrations, but someone else's who's really strong, and they would start comparing. Okay, you made a mistake, like just like what we did. So some of the narrations are super strong, and we can see because they're all matching up. And then one guy, whenever he narrates, there's like differences in words, but it's pretty much capturing all the meanings. So this is going to be Hasan li Dhati. His narrations are Hasan. A little bit more intricate, but they gather all the hadith and all the variations, and then they can find who made what mistake, and then they'll give them a grading based off of that. All right, so now we move on to Ḍa'īf. Now we're mentioning Ḍa'īf here. I know we're talking about maqbul hadith, but we do this because we need to know a little bit about Ḍa'īf to learn about the other hadith. So we're not getting into Ḍa'īf yet. Ḍa'īf is huge, we're probably not going to get into that now. But we need to look a little bit at Ḍa'īf. What makes a hadith Ḍa'īf? What makes a hadith Hasan is slight weakness in one person's memory. And Sahih is those 5 things. What is Ḍa'īf? Not necessarily. That is also a reason. But now we're focusing on the narrators. Yes, if there's a break in the chain, that also constitutes Ḍa'īf. But right now we're looking at a Ḍa'īf narrator. If a narrator's memory is extremely weak, so not slight weakness, he's bad memory. And there's a spectrum. So he might be weak or very weak. That's Ḍa'īf. Slight weak is Hasan. And they can tell, like I said, they get all the narrations and see how many mistakes they make. So, i.e., weaker than the amount of memory needed to become Hasan. So let's say Sahih is 90 and up. Hasan is 85 and up. 85 to 75, or 85 and below, we'll say he's Ḍa'īf. He's Ḍa'īf. His memory is not that great. 70% is still weak. That makes a hadith Ḍa'īf. If you have just one guy in the chain whose memory is weak, it makes the entire, it doesn't matter if you have the best narrators in the world, if you have one person that messes it up messes up the whole narration. Just like I gave the example on the first day, if I give a pizza to one person, and I say, okay, give it to your friend, to give it to your friend, to give it to your friend, to that person. And then somewhere along the line, someone puts a little bit of poison in there. Now, is the pizza fine? Everyone else is reliable. No, that pizza is not fine anymore. Or if the narration is lacking in any of the 4 conditions. So if the narration, number one, if the narrator's memory is more weak, or any of those 5, there's an issue, then you'll get various kinds of Ḍa'īf. That's why there's so many kinds of Ḍa'īf, because there's 5 conditions, and each condition can have various levels and problems in each different one. So you have different stuff. So if you have, let's say the first condition is missing, then you have a narration called mursal, munqati', mu'dal, mu'allaq, right? Just because you're missing condition number 1. If you're missing condition number 2, which is reliability in the narrator, then you got mawdu', you got munkar, you got matruk. If you're missing condition number 3, which is good memory, then you got Ḍa'īf, just general Ḍa'īf, and then you have all these various kinds based off of missing any one of those 5s and how much you're missing one of those 5s. That's why there's so many Ḍa'īfs. Everyone following? We didn't get into all of those yet, but okay. If this is the case, then it's Ḍa'īf. Basically, anything that's not Sahih or Hasan is Ḍa'īf. You can do it that way as well. Process of elimination. There exists a large spectrum of terms related to Ḍa'īf, which will be discussed later, inshallah. So we will talk about it later on. And that's where the more difficult aspects of Hadith come. It's easier to see when it's Sahih or Hasan. Ḍa'īf is a hard portion of Hadith. Let's look at an example of Ḍa'īf. Imam al-Tirmidhi and Imam Ahmad narrate from the chain of Darraj bin Sam'an from Abu al-Haytham, from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu anhu, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, when you see a man who is habitual of going to the masjid, testify to the veracity of his faith. So this person, he's always going to the masjid, you always see him come into the masjid, he's a believer. You don't have to go and ask him, hey, do you believe in Allah? He's a believer, he comes to the masjid. The narrator, Darraj. So where is Darraj? This is the first guy in the chain. Is weak in his narrations from Abu al-Haytham. Now, this is unique. Let me read the rest. Imam Ibn Hajar, he comments on this. He says, Darraj is acceptable, but his narrations from Abu al-Haytham are weak. The Muhaddithin broke it down to such a science that they knew that, okay, your hadith are fine, but when you narrate from that teacher of yours, then it's Ḍa'īf. There's not even like a blanket Ḍa'īf. It's like, I know when his narrations from that guy, it's Ḍa'īf, when it's from that teacher, it's Hasan, but when it's that teacher, it's Sahih. So, Darraj does narrate from Abu al-Haytham, and all of his narrations from Abu al-Haytham are weak. So why is that though? Like, how can he have strong hadith from someone else, but from another person he has weak narrations? I'll give you an example. Maybe Abu al-Haytham became senile. Later, senile when you're old, you don't have good memory. So sometimes the muhaddithin, they're very strong in their memory. They got old and then their memories became weak. So maybe Darraj only took from Abu al-Haytham when he was an old man. So every narration he takes from Abu al-Haytham is weak. But narrations he takes from someone else is strong. So this is also something, it's very intricate the way they do this. This is an example of Ḍa'īf. But now we've covered Sahih li Dhatihi, Hasan li Dhatihi, Ḍa'īf li Dhatihi. I'm sorry, there's no Ḍa'īf li Dhatihi, it's just Ḍa'īf. Now we move on to something else. Al-Ṣaḥīḥ li Ghayrihi. What does li Ghayrihi mean? Outside factors, right? So for some other reason. But this is, by itself, it's not Sahih. But it gets strength from other reports and it gets upgraded to Sahih. So this is what you call the upgraded Sahih. So it reaches a level of Sahih. You treat it like it's Sahih. But by itself, it would not have been. Okay, how does this happen? If you have a Hasan li Dhatihi, who remembers what a Hasan li Dhatihi is? What is Hasan li Dhatihi? Yeah, but like, what causes a hadith to be Hasan li Dhatihi? Yeah, slight weakness in memory. It meets all the conditions of Sahih, but there's a slight weakness in memory. That's Hasan li Dhatihi. So you have a hadith like that. If a Hasan li Dhatihi narration is found to have more than one chain, so there's not just one chain, there's more than one, or they're corroborative reports, meaning similar reports, then it gets a level of strength which was not there before. What does this mean? So you have one hadith is Hasan li Dhatihi. Someone in that chain, he was almost Sahih, he didn't make it. Hasan li Dhatihi. So what happens in my mind when I see that? I'm like, okay, I can trust this guy, but his memory is not that great from what I've seen in other narrations. So I don't know 100% did Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say this. Let's say 85%. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said it. Okay. Then I come across another narration, and I'm like, wait, it's the same thing that person said. Okay, now maybe he got it right that time, because I'm getting this other narration, it's saying the same thing. This is removing the fear that I had in him. So it got upgraded. So that's what Sahih li Ghayrihi is. It was Hasan, it got bumped up to Sahih, but because of another narration. It got help. Right? Someone helped him. It's like if you guys were narrating, and then someone else came and was like, hey, the narration's actually like this or something like that. Or that's not an accurate example. But still, the doubt that you had in that narrator is gone because you found another narration. That is Sahih li Ghayrihi. So it's actually a Hasan hadith. You get maybe another Hasan hadith, and the two work together and they become Sahih li Ghayrihi. This strength that it gains causes the originally Hasan narration to be upgraded into Sahih. It's not on the same level as Sahih li Dhatihi, but we're going to treat it like it's Sahih now. Because that doubt that I used to have, it's gone now. I don't have a doubt in it. Because the other narration helped out with that. However, this Sahih is not the same as Sahih li Dhatihi because it became Sahih due to outside factors, i.e. the extra chains. The extra chains has made it Sahih. This is why it's called Sahih li Ghayrihi, or Sahih due to outside factors. This is what I just explained. All you need to know is, if you have a Hasan li Dhatihi hadith, and you get another Hasan li Dhatihi hadith, they will both be upgraded to a Sahih li Ghayrihi. they need to be the same report. It has to be the same report by some other Sahabi. So you got Anas narrating one hadith, but then somewhere along the line, some narrator, he had slight weakness. So I'm not 90% sure, like 89% sure. Then we have Abu Huraira, he has one, and then someone has maybe slight weakness. So both of those give me pretty surety. Now it gets bumped up to 95%. So it's become Sahih li Ghayrihi. So let's take a look at an example of Sahih li Ghayrihi. Imam Tirmidhi narrates from the chain of Muhammad bin Amr from Abu Salama from Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, if it was not difficult upon my ummah, I would have commanded them to use the miswak before every salah. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was very big on dental hygiene, but he noticed that not everyone will have a miswak because a lot of people are poor. Otherwise, he would have commanded everyone to do miswak. So we don't really have an excuse. Myself, first of all, we have the capability of having miswak, so we need to use it because he would have commanded them, but he didn't out of that difficulty. All right, so that's a narration. Imam Ibn al-Salah is a great Imam of Hadith. He said, Muhammad bin Amr, where is Muhammad bin Amr? He's the first one in the chain. He's also the son of Alqamah. Is famous for his honesty and reliability. So he's honest. We didn't have a problem with his honesty. He's a good man. So he's adil. If you remember, he's a good person. But that doesn't mean his memory is good. He was not among the very accurate. He's a great guy, but his memory was a little weak. So it's not going to be on the level of Sahih. He's not so weak. He's not among the very accurate. So he has some issue. Some have stated that he's weak due to his poor memory. However, others have said that he's strong due to his honesty and dignity. So now you have some people saying weak, some people saying strong. So what? You go into the middle. He's actually in the middle. He's Hasan. His narrations will be Hasan. Thus, his hadith is Hasan. Then, when his narration is narrated through another chain, so there is another chain. He's not mentioning that. There's another chain with the same hadith, narrated by a different Sahabi. The fear that we had about his poor memory is removed, and the small deficiency is corrected. So it gets bumped up to Sahih li Ghayrihi. It was originally Hasan because Muhammad bin Amr has a slight weakness in his memory, but we have another chain. So now that doubt that I had regarding his narrations is corrected. This chain is then authentic, and it is included among Sahih narrations. Right? Everybody understand? Now, we just finished Sahih li Ghayrihi. Now we're doing Hasan li Ghayrihi. Who can guess what Hasan li Ghayrihi is? If Sahih li Ghayrihi is a bump up in Hasan, Hasan becomes Sahih. What is Hasan li Ghayrihi? Ḍa'īf getting upgraded. So just like Hasan can get upgraded, Ḍa'īf can get upgraded. That's what Hasan li Ghayrihi is. Same concept. You got two Ḍa'īf narrations. And there are some conditions. It can't be severely Ḍa'īf because there's a huge spectrum of Ḍa'īf. We'll talk about that in another class. What is severely Ḍa'īf? It has to be slightly Ḍa'īf. You got two of them or more. You're going to get bumped up to Hasan. Now you can use that for fiqh. Remember, Hasan can be used for fiqh. Ḍa'īf cannot. But if you've got two Ḍa'īfs, that is not Ḍa'īf anymore. It's Hasan. So you can use it for fiqh also. So just because you saw, Imam Malik is using a Ḍa'īf hadith for fiqh, do you know if there's another chain or not? So maybe it's not Ḍa'īf, maybe it's Hasan. But you just looked at one chain. And so before we make a judgment, how do we know there's not another chain that makes it Hasan li Ghayrihi? So that's the gist of it. Let me just read what's on the slide. If a Ḍa'īf narration is not extremely Ḍa'īf, and as you guys can see on your chart, there's like that portion that talks about very Ḍa'īf. It's not very Ḍa'īf, has more than one chain, or there's corroborative reports. What's a corroborative report? It's not the same matan. It's a different matan, but it says the same thing. It's a slight difference. It's not the same thing. Let's say in the exercise that we did, wade in the waves of studies. So someone says, you know, the waves of studies is an amazing thing that allows you to go into the depths of the ocean of knowledge. It's similar, but it's not the same report. That's a corroborative report. It's similar, it's not the same though. So you got a Ḍa'īf narration. Number one, it's not extremely Ḍa'īf. Number two, either it has another chain or it has another corroborative report, similar. Then it's going to get some strength. We're going to call it Hasan now. But it's not Hasan by itself. It's Hasan due to outside factors. But Hasan li Ghayrihi. However, this newly Hasan narration is different than Hasan li Dhatihi because it became Hasan through outside factors. This is why it's termed Hasan li Ghayrihi or Hasan due to outside factors. Again, we need to understand the intricate sciences before we start pointing fingers at the mujtahideen. Oh, how could he use a Ḍa'īf hadith? Are you sure it's Ḍa'īf? Maybe there's 2 or 3 of them or a corroborative report somewhere, or there's other factors as well, which we will talk about next month, inshallah. We'll get into how the fuqaha look at hadith, but we have to first look at how the muhaddithin do it. Let's take a look at an example. Hasan li Ghayrihi. Imam al-Tirmidhi narrated from the chain of Shu'bah from Asim bin Ubaydullah from Abdullah bin Amir bin Rabi'a from his father that a woman from Bani Fazara got married upon the agreement that her dowry would be 2 sandals. Imagine how, they must have been very poor. So her husband, the groom was just giving 2 sandals for the mahr. The Messenger of Allah said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Are you happy to give yourself and your wealth for 2 sandals?" He said, "Yes." Then he approved of the marriage. So this is the narration. Imam al-Tirmidhi said, other hadith related to this are those of Umar radiallahu anhu, Abu Huraira, Aisha, and Abu Hadrad radiallahu anhu. He says there's other narrations like this. So in the chain, Asim. Who is Asim? He's after Shu'bah in the beginning. Asim is Ḍa'īf. He has poor memory. Not even Hasan. He has bad, it's not horrible memory, but it's worse than Hasan. Asim is the Ḍa'īf one. He causes the entire chain to become Ḍa'īf. However, Imam al-Tirmidhi says, look, there's another narration like this by Umar, by Abu Huraira, by Aisha, by Abu Hadrad. So now that fear that we had in Asim that you messed up is gone. There's other narrations like it. So Imam al-Tirmidhi states that it is Hasan because there's other versions that give it credence, that bumps it up. So it's a Ḍa'īf that got upgraded into Hasan. That's what we call Hasan li Ghayrihi. Now, why isn't there a Ḍa'īf li Ghayrihi? Why isn't there a Ḍa'īf li Dhatihi, Ḍa'īf li Ghayrihi? MashaAllah. There's nothing worse than Ḍa'īf that can get upgraded to Ḍa'īf. It's the bottom. You can't go lower than the bottom. Right? That's why there's Ḍa'īf is not Ḍa'īf. There's no Ḍa'īf li Dhatihi li Ghayrihi. But these, you can go lower and they can get upgraded. So that's what this is, right? So automatically we get this understanding that you need to know a good amount of narrations, right? Because you need to know corroborative reports, you need to know multiple chains of one report. It's not easy. You have to have a very vast knowledge of hadith. Now, we go into, I will pause in 5 minutes to see if there's any questions. If you guys want to continue, maybe we could do a majority vote. If you guys want to just continue with the terminology, we'll do that. But if there's, some pertinent questions, we can take those as well. We're going to take a closer look at the 5 conditions. This, like I mentioned, is a cornerstone, is the absolute pivot of hadith itself. But if you can understand these 5 conditions, the rest of learning about the different hadiths is going to be easier for you, inshallah. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to look at these 5 conditions, inshallah. So here, I said this looks like a hadith teddy bear, but Ustad Nafiha said it looks more like a turtle, and I have to agree with her. So hadith turtle. Al-Ṣaḥīḥ li Dhatihi, this is a turtle. These are the 5 conditions. Unbroken chain, reliable narrator, accurate narrator, not shadh, not mu'allal. We're going to look at each one of these and see how far we can go with this, inshallah. If not, then maybe next time we can start from here as a recap, a very quick recap. And I want you guys to look over these things if you're going to come for the next program. Just review before we start. Otherwise, everything's going to be gone in a month. Number 1, the unbroken chain. Why is this necessary? Why is it a condition for a Sahih Hadith that the chain has to be connected? If there's a missing link anywhere in the chain, it means there's an unnamed and unknown narrator. Because it's not like a person just got it from magic. If someone is missing in a chain, then the person who's relating it to you did get it from someone, but they're not mentioned. So who is this unknown person? Can I just trust? Like, okay, alhamdulillah, no, I don't know who he is, but I'm going to trust him. No, my deen is not based off of blind following and blind trust. Right? We actually do need to know where this came from. The only one I blindly trust is Allah and His Messenger. But these are not Allah and His Messenger. I need to know the people. That's why the chain being broken is a very harmful thing. We need to know everyone in that chain. There's a possibility that the unknown narrator is of reliable nature. Conversely, it's also possible that the missing link is a fabricator or someone who has weak memory, which makes his narration unacceptable. So the person that is gone in the chain, you have a chain of narration, someone is gone in the middle. Who is this person? Is he a fabricator? Until I find out, I cannot say that I cannot accept this chain. So it's unacceptable. And this is also a form of Ḍa'īf. Like I mentioned, we'll talk about those in its due time. In order to ascertain the state of the sanad, one must first know each of the narrators, their dates of birth, dates of death, their character, their strength of memory, where they lived, where they visited, whom they met, their teachers and students, and many other facets of their lives. Why do we have to do all this? You need to know when this person was born and died, because what if the next person he says he's narrating from was not even alive at the same time? That means he definitely didn't get it from him. There's a missing guy there. You also need to know, did they even visit the same places if they were hypothetically alive at the same time? Was there a chance for them to meet? Also, any other aspect that can affect this, that must be known. That's why we need history. And that's why the muhaddithin are also historians, because they memorize all of this from their memory. They'll tell you, he was born on this day, he died on this day, he met this person on this year, he went for Hajj. All of that from memory. It's just mind-boggling how they would do this. These are the great muhaddithin, the very few that we talked about. Most of them are not on this level that they memorize everything. But we saw examples of that. Remember yesterday, Khatib Baghdadi was like, this person wasn't alive at the time of that letter. This person accepted Islam 2 years later. He died 2 years before it. So they were on that level where they could just call it instant recall. So that's why we need to know about the chain. Okay. So it's already 10. So do you guys want to continue, or do you want to ask questions? Maybe I should ask. And maybe those online can also chime in. A show of hands, who wants to pause here for this week and Q&A? Show of hands. Okay. It's very clear. And it doesn't matter, I guess, what the people online say. No one raised their hands if you guys are curious. Okay, except for me. So let's continue, inshallah. We'll get a little bit more done, and if the brothers especially, you can ask me after. I'll be in the masjid, inshallah. Known narrators and unknown narrators. So this is basically the same thing I just said. We need to know who they are. Narrators are divided into known and unknown. In one sense, like based off of do you know them or not. Known narrators are either criticized or praised. So you can only criticize or praise someone when you know them. If you don't know a guy, how are you going to say he's a shaitan? The guy who's missing in the chain, I don't know who he is, he's a shaitan. You can't say that. So you can only criticize or praise someone that you know. And the term used for criticism is someone who is criticized, majruh. And if he's praised, mu'addal. Understanding the grading of narrators is the science of jarh and ta'dil. We talked about this yesterday. Grading narrators. So they put them into different categories. Inshallah, next month we can talk about these categories. Some have 7 categories for praise, 7 categories for criticism. So you'll find different narrators in different categories. Based off of that, the strength or the weakness of the hadith can be known. Now, those are known narrators. Unknown narrators, they're called majhul. Anyone heard this word before? Majhul? Like unknown. Majhul means unknown. Nusayra? Oh, you mean the ism al-maf'ul? Yeah, these are all ism al-maf'ul. Majruh, juriha yujrahu jarhan fahuwa majruh, juhila yujhalu jahlan fahuwa majhul. Right, those of you who are studying Arabic. So there's different types of jahala. Jahala is the state of being unknown. And there's methods of removing that as well. We'll talk about that in its due time as well. This is just like a disclaimer kind of thing. We'll get into all of these if it feels like, okay, what's happening here? We're going to talk about that in detail when we get there. It's just I'm letting you know. Sometimes you know a narrator, sometimes you don't. You cannot criticize someone you don't know. If you don't know them, you still can't accept because of the doubts. Possible it's acceptable, it's possible it's unacceptable. All of these factors must be ascertained before determining the authenticity of a narration. These aspects fall under determining the ittisalu sanad, or the breaking or unbreaking of a chain. So what am I basically saying here? When you look at a chain, the first condition of sahih, you're looking at all the people in the chain, and if you know every individual, they're all there. There's no unknown narrator. I know everybody here. Now after that, you have to say, okay, has anyone criticized them? What is the praise for these people? Then you can go to the next step. But if there's someone in the chain, you don't even know who he is. Someone says, like, I narrate from Abdullah. Abdullah who? There's like thousands of Abdullahs. Be more specific. Abdullah bin Fulan, or like, who is this person? So then they'll look at all the teachers of that person. Does he have Abdullah among his teachers? And then they'll see this Abdullah, does he narrate from that guy after? And then they'll try to find who this Abdullah is. So you have to determine every individual in the chain, like who is this person? And then you look at the criticism. You can't look at criticism before that. So that is why it's so important. Al-Jarh wa Ta'dil will be discussed further under the section of Ḍa'īf narration. So this is just a, disclaimer, if you will. We'll get into it later.